Alright, what's up guys? In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at all 5 of the LMGs in Call of Duty Warzone. We're going to be ranking them in a bunch of categories and comparing them head to head. I'm basically going to be telling you guys which is the best LMG in Call of Duty Warzone. I've been posting a bunch of videos like this and they have absolutely been doing incredible. So if you guys do want to crush a like on this video, I would greatly appreciate it. So we're going to talk about the PKM, the Holger, the SA87, the M91, and the MG34. We're going to be looking at their range, their mobility, their accuracy, and their time to kill up to what distance with the best class setup for each weapon. I had done a lot of testing in the last few days trying to figure out what the best class setup was for each weapon, because there's a lot of places some of these LMGs lack compared to like SMGs and assault rifles. So I'm going to be showing you guys the best class setup that I recommend for each weapon. Like I said, we're taking those stats of each weapon, comparing them head to head, and looking at the overall time to kill, which is one of the most important factors and what makes a gun good. And like I said, telling you guys which guns I think are good, which guns I recommend you guys using, and which guns I don't. And the first thing I want to talk about is the unique info about these weapons, because there's a lot of unique data, and unless you actually know it, it's going to affect how you think about these weapons. The first thing to talk about is the actual damage drop-offs. This is what makes the Holger a good gun in my opinion, is it has no damage drop-offs anywhere. So like, for example, on some of the other guns, you get a lower damage to the body, you get a lower damage to the limbs. So it has two different damage drop-offs. Like the SA87, it might have the highest damage, but it does worse to the lower stomach, and it does worse to the arms and legs, which is a big negative. And then the next thing to talk about is the trigger delay. As far as when you press your trigger down, and then it takes about 1/10 of a second for each weapon to actually shoot with the LMGs versus the difference on the assault rifles and the SMGs. The only weapons that have that is the M91, the PKM, and the MG34. It's about 1/10 of a second trigger delay, which you obviously will notice if you press your trigger. You're like, hey, why is my gun not shooting? That is why. So that is one thing the Holger and the SA87 get a benefit of. There is no trigger delay on either of those guns. And the next and last thing to talk about is the SA87. It's a pretty good gun. They've actually buffed it twice, which in Season 2 they buffed the recoil and the damage, which definitely made this a lot better gun. But like I said, the first thing we're talking about is the overall range. Like I said, this is with the best class setup for each weapon. The one thing I did want to make a note of in the very beginning of the video is with the LMGs, they have such good range. And as far as actually what the long barrels usually do, on an SMG or an AR, they give you excellent improvements. On LMGs, they give you a little bit more range and have a very minimal effect on your overall recoil, which on a lot of the ARs is one of the reasons I use the long barrels. So as far as the one thing you'll know on all these class setups, a lot of them are very different. I run the monolith suppressor based on every single class setup, and none of them have long barrels. So the first thing to talk about is the overall range. The SA87 takes first. It has excellent range, all the way up to 60 meters is the base range. The MG34 holds down the very bottom of the barrel only at 35 meters, which is almost AR level, about 10%, a little bit better than some of the best ARs, and actually I think tied with the Kilo at the base range. So the range is horrible on the MG34. As far as the M91, the Holger, and the PKM, they're all pretty good, middle of the pack, about 50 meters. The difference with the Holger is it does have a second damage drop, which is about 72 meters. So the base range at 50 is very good, a little bit better than ARs, but at the 72 meters is a very low damage range. It's about identical to that of the Ram and the M4, which are assault rifles. So that's a big negative about the Holger. Talking about the mobility of each weapon, this is probably the biggest thing you'll notice a massive difference on. This is what, in my opinion, completely outclasses a lot of these weapons. The overall aim down sight time, I'll show all 5 on the screen. You guys can see the Holger has a 300 millisecond, which is about average for assault rifles, which is excellent. PKM is about 366, which is a little bit on the fast end for LMGs, a little bit on the slow end for ARs, which is actually pretty good. MG34 about 400 milliseconds, which is faster than default, which is good. And then the M91 and the SA87 are the same as default with the class setup on it. As far as the movement speed, this is where 100% you will notice the difference in these class setups. The Holger has a 99% movement speed. The base movement's about 92%. And the class setup I built for it, I went for movement. With the LMG obviously on there, it's going to be, a hybrid AR LMG, but I have a 99% movement speed is now SMG and fastest in the game. So that's an excellent thing about it. The PKM, about 88%, has no change at all, which is pretty average. MG34 is about 85%, which is very slow and actually pretty horrible. One of the biggest negatives about it. The M91, about 91%, is a little bit faster for LMGs, faster than the regular base one. And the SA87 is 89%, which is actually slower, but is an average movement speed for LMGs. And as far as talking about the overall accuracy, the PKM is absolutely number one. It has the least recoil by a long shot. The class that I built for is to give it basically a laser-like accuracy, and the stability is excellent with the Commando foregrip on there, so it definitely takes first. I put the M91 in second because it has a vertical only recoil pattern, which is the easiest to control. The recoil is a little bit less than the other weapons, and it's very stable. There's no movement in the left to right. It just shoots straight up and down, so it's definitely excellent. MG34 is vertical only, kind of similar to the AK. There's a difference in the shots where there's a big gap between them, but for the overall fire it has, is definitely an excellent recoil pattern. The SA87 and the Holger I put somewhat in the same category. They're very stable, but they do pull to the right, almost identical recoil patterns. Anything that pulls to the right or pulls to the left is very hard to control and track players at a long distance. So PKM definitely takes the accuracy category by a long shot, and the Holger obviously takes the movement speed by a long shot. So talking about what that actually does to each gun, telling you guys the base stats of what it does. The PKM has the best recoil pattern, which accuracy is probably the number one reason the Grau is the most popular weapon. The range is a little bit below average. Aim down sight time is very fast, very excellent. And the best thing about it is your base range TTK is faster than some of the other guns, so your time to kill up to that 45 meters is excellent. And then above that 45 meters, it has probably one of the fastest times to kill out of every single gun in the game. When you factor in that overall accuracy, I couldn't tell how many times I was killing someone about 200 meters away because the accuracy in the range is so excellent. The SA87 is going to get a little bit better accuracy, has the best range, but does have a little bit slower movement speed. The MG34 has the worst range, the worst accuracy, the slowest reload time, but does get a faster movement speed and a faster ADS, which the movement speed is still horrible, and the ADS is still average, if not below average. So definitely probably a lot of big negatives about this gun. The M91 gets a faster movement speed, has a very good recoil pattern. It has the fastest reload time, but does have a slow ADS compared to that of the other LMGs, but gets 3 really good positives. The Holger-26 obviously has the fastest movement out of any gun in the game, which is incredible. The aim down sight time is very, very good for LMG, which is average, if not fast for an assault rifle. The accuracy is pretty good. Reminds me a lot of like the Ram and the Scar. It's very accurate, but it pulls, and the reload is very fast for the amount of ammo you have. So there's a lot of things that I want to factor into the overall time to kill, which is obviously that trigger delay. You have the overall fire rate, and then you have the reload time. The reload time, in my opinion, is probably the biggest factor in what changes these guns. Like I said, the MG34 has a lot of negatives. It takes 7.7 seconds to reload 50 bullets. When you compare that to the M91, it takes 6.1 seconds to reload 100 bullets. When you compare that to the Holger-26, you're 2.5 seconds to reload 100 bullets. So the Holger has double the ammo with triple the reload time. And then the PKM is about 6.8 seconds for 100, which is pretty average. The SA87 is about a little over 7 seconds, so it's a little on the slow end. But the MG34 having the fastest fire rate with the least amount of ammo, the slowest reload time, is, in my opinion, going to have a big effect on the overall time to kill, which you guys will see the overall chart and how that affects it. It does have an excellent time to kill, like I said, but factoring all that in with the reload time and the overall accuracy, your time to kill is definitely going to go down. But the overall fire rate, PKM about 750, Holger about 750. They're pretty average, but the PKM obviously has a little bit more range and obviously has a better overall accuracy. M91's a little bit on the slow end, about 660, which is somewhat average to a lot of the other guns. SA87 holds down the bottom of the barrel about 600, and the MG34 is like one of the top 5 guns in the game, 860 rounds per minute. So taking a look at the overall time to kill, you guys can see a little screenshot on the screen as far as where that takes you. Obviously, the MG34 has an excellent time to kill at that close range if you can hit your shots, which under 35 meters, you definitely are probably gonna be able to hit your shots. You guys can see the Holger is definitely the lowest time to kill weapon as far as across the board, close, mid, and long range, but the fact that it has the fastest mobility, the movement speed, is what's gonna definitely factor into winning you a lot more gunfights. The PKM, in my opinion, is what's going to absolutely outclass all these other guns in the overall time to kill. You guys can see it's only about 10% faster than the SA87 and the M91. Obviously, the SA87 has that max range from that 50 to 60 meters, which is where it's going to have one of the fastest times to kill. But Obviously, only 10 meters is not a good number. And then obviously you take a look at that max damage range. The PKM kills about 10% faster than the SA87 and a little bit about 15% faster than the M91 at that max range, which in my opinion is what makes it the #1 LMG. I'm definitely going to take the Holger. I'm going to rank it up there. It's pretty average for assault rifles as far as everything about it, but that movement speed's excellent. I would definitely rate it like right next to the Ram 7 as maybe like a top 6, top 5 AR. The accuracy is pretty good. Aim down sight's decent. The reload time is pretty good. And then the movement speed is absolutely incredible. So the PKM is 100% in my opinion the best LMG to use, the only LMG you should be using besides the Holger. I did a video previously discussing this, and I did the base stats unfortunately like an idiot. In today's video I wanted to reiterate the fact that I'm showcasing you guys the best thing about it. The M91 is definitely very underrated. It's got a good movement speed, it's got a very good accuracy and a really good reload time. Slacks on the ADS, and the thing for me to note is a lot of these weapons just are average or they have one good stat, like the Holger only has good movement. The PKM has excellent range, has excellent ADS, it has excellent recoil, and it has a very good time to kill at every single range, which is why it's 100% the best LMG. So if you guys did enjoy today's video, make sure you guys leave a like, make sure you guys subscribe, and leave a comment down below. What is your guys' personal favorite LMG to use in Call of Duty Warzone? You guys know the best and only code to use on all of your SCUF and GFUEL purchases is code Trapgod. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. I'll talk to you guys in the next one.